Yeah, so you said you've got four. Knew you
Yeah.
had four, and actually you have two that are the same ages as my two.
How old are yours?
I haven't, he's going to be 11 and an
Okay.
8.
Okay, yeah.
And
I
you
have
have
an
two about
11-year-old
that, right?
and an 8-year-old. 11-year-old boy and then an 8-year-old girl.
And your little girl is so cute. I'm going to just welcome you because I'm going to tell you this. So,
What?
welcome to Revitalized Womanhood.
Oh.
Ladies, we have Heidi Powell with us, the Heidi Powell.
Oh.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I needed to have like some music. I will. I'm going to have some music behind your name that's like, oh. But so your daughter, she's adorable. I noticed her in some of your 10-minute workout
Yeah.
challenges with you. She's adorable.
She's so sweet. I mean, I just posted a reel this morning of her on the way to school. She has like the most infectious, brightest, lightest personality, and she's so funny. Like I always joke, and it's not even a joke, but she is my number one hype girl. Like, oh, mom, you look good. Like she's just
Oh
so
no.
like
And she's your
she
8-year-old?
never. Ah, yes. I like the universe, God knew I needed her at the end to like make me feel good all the time.
So you're telling me to keep going for number 4 then, right? Because I
What?
have 3
Well, okay.
boys.
Oh, okay. What are so 11, 8? What's the other age?
Not even 2, 20 months.
Yes, you need a last one
He needs a
because
buddy.
especially with the gap, it's like you have a 6-year gap.
Yeah.
I did that. I did a 5-year gap, so I had two a gap and then two more, and they are buddies. Like the two, it's like two little almost generations, right? And they just love each other and they have each other, and you need your girl.
I do. Oh my gosh. My boys, they want a girl so bad. Mom, I cried a little bit. I won't lie. I cried a little bit on his gender reveal, and it was a boy, and I was like, okay, that's going to be okay. It's all right. We'll be fine. But I think my oldest, I think my 11-year-old, I think he cried too, honestly. I think he was pretty sad about it too.
Oh,
And they're like, "So, can we have a girl now? Can we have a girl now?" And I'm like, that's not really how it works, but what if we had
doesn't
another
really work that
boy?
way.
I'd
I
be the crazy
know,
boy
I
mom.
know. You know what? That's not a bad thing. Boys are, they're easier in so many ways. So, I mean, my oldest boy is one of my easiest. And I almost feel like they get to a point where they are so much easier than girls. And girls get to a point where you're like, what is happening? Like, hormones start hitting,
The
and there are
Exorcist.
two of us now. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I ever want that to happen with Ruby. I need her to stay at 8.
Oh, she sounds amazing. I think, well, it's not that shocking because look at you. You're like everyone else's
Oh,
hype girl.
thank
So she's like, you know what, mom? I'll be your hype girl. You're doing it for everyone else. So let me do it for you, little
It's
sweetie.
funny. I
Well,
never
let
thought
me.
about that. Like,
It's
maybe it's just
true.
ingrained in us, you know?
Yes, to be a hype girl. It
Yeah.
has to be. It has to be. I wanted to actually tell my listeners about in case they didn't know, I don't know who doesn't, but in case they didn't know about your modern family, that do you have such good relationships with both of your exes, and you kind of have created this big family unit around everybody, and it includes everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I have been divorced twice. It's so funny because I say that like I'm like, "Oh, let me tell you now. Here's like my scarlet letter. I've been divorced
Right?
twice."
No kidding.
Because it is a thing that, like, I don't love that I haven't been able to make it work twice, right? But I do love what I've learned through all of it, number one, and I love the person that I am evolving to be. So that being said, it's funny how society can kind of put an idea in our head of what life is supposed to be like, and then we measure ourselves to it, and if we don't measure up, or we're different, or we stand out, we make it mean that we're less than. And the reality is, I look at anyone else that has a marriage that I would never want, and I'm like, I'm so glad I'm where I am. But I do have two ex-husbands, and I am super lucky that we all, for the most part, get along. Now, that doesn't mean that we're like immune to fights or to disagreements, or that we always are chummy. We're not. Like it's been a roller coaster over the past, how many years? 14 years since my first husband and I got divorced. So he and I had 2 kids. We got divorced when Marley and Maddox were like 1 and 2 or 2 and 3. It was very young. And then Chris and I were married for 10 years, and then he and I divorced. We started divorcing 3 years ago. And I mean, there have been points though where I would say for the first 5 years of my first divorce, there was no relationship with my ex-husband and I. And I say that because I think it's important for people to know who are out there who are like, my situation's a lost cause. I don't believe anything is a lost cause, but I do believe that you have to know your boundaries at both sides, right? Like I needed to know mine, Derek needed to know his, and we needed to be consistent with them, like be true to ourselves and be consistent in ways of, if something you sometimes we tend to be a doormat to another party thinking it will make them like us or repair the relationship, when the reality is when we do that, when we cave, we're setting a standard that isn't sustainable forever, and we're making the long-term relationship work or worse. And so for us, just consistency in, you know what, like I need to be honest about who I am and what works for me and what doesn't. And over time, it really does end up working out. Another thing too, I will say is putting the kids first is so important. And I think that's hard. Every divorced parent wants to say, oh, I put my kids first, but my ex doesn't. They all say that. And the reality is most people are actually using their kids as pawns, like their kids as pieces in like their game to try and control or have power over their ex. And I think it is actually really pretty right now to see what me and my 2 ex-husbands do, all 3 together, and that we might have personal beef with each other occasionally, but we all care so much about the kids that we will put it aside and be the kind of co-parents that we need to be and friends that we need to be with each other to help those kids have the best life possible.
Absolutely. Well, you said it. I was actually listening to and shared because it was such a good episode you did with, is it Lisa Bilyeu? Is that how you say her name?
Yeah.
And she mentioned that. Yeah. She said you have to take the high road. That's so hard to do, take the high road, because we all want to be the ones that maybe making ourselves look better by putting someone else down. It's so human nature. It's so hard to not do it. My husband will say to me all the time, he'll say, if I'm not happy, I will leave. I mean, from day one, he's like, I'm telling you, we have one life. He's very adamant on, we have one life. And if there comes a point, obviously he's not just going to throw in the towel just over, like I didn't clean the dishes or not cook the dinner right. But he's like, if there comes a time where we are not happy, I will leave. There is no point, and I would hope you would leave. So, yeah, we have a pretty honest relationship, too. We are very one of those couples where he can say some things to me, and people would be like, huh. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal.
But I get it. I actually, have either of you guys been divorced before?
I have.
Or no?
Yep. I was married before.
Okay, so I actually understand what he's saying. And this is me being on the other side of 2 divorces. No part of me would ever go back. Like if I've had a lot of people say, if you could go back and make either of them work, would you? No. My answer is no. I would not be who I am. There's sometimes in relationships, especially when a lack of happiness exists and a lack of willingness from both parties to evolve the same way. It's not even at the same pace, but the same way, right? Because we change as people, and you have to evolve in a way that complements each other. And when that can't happen, what happens to both people is their growth is blunted. Like we spend energy and resources trying to fix something that maybe isn't meant to be fixed, right? And it puts a lid on who we are. Where Chris and I, when we were deciding to divorce, we did therapy for 2 years. Very intense therapy. And I remember our therapist was like, hey, I'm not here to make your marriage work. I'm not. Like, I'm here to help you guys do what's best for you. I want you both to be happy. And she said, let's set a date. If by this date you guys still are exerting energy working through this stuff, then let's agree to, she called it individuate. And it was the best thing. And so we did. We got to that point and it was not better, right? It was not better. It was actually, you can't stay the same. You're either getting better at something or you are getting worse at it. Like, you're either improving or going. My dad used to say, you can't sit in the same playing field. And we ended up deciding to split. And our thing was, all right, let's individuate. Let's have time alone. Let's divorce and we'll see who we become. Right. And maybe we're meant to grow in different ways. Maybe we're meant to grow separately so that we can come back together. But either way, we were becoming codependent, which is not healthy for anyone. And that's what happens when relationships are unhappy. Right. And we're both at a point now where it's like, wow, like I can't imagine who I would be still exerting that time into that. And same with Chris. And I know a lot of people say, well, what about your kids? I believe that my kids need to see me and Chris at our happiest and at our place of most peace. Because when I think about it, I would never, like, what advice would I give to my kids if they were not happy and they could not figure out how to get something to work? I'd say, you go be happy. You go be, and you might go and the grass might not be greener on the other side, and then you learn a lesson and you like, but go, do not sit inside of something. I see so many people suffering inside of marriages that they think are going to improve. It's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And you will never get a different result from not changing something. Right. And
absolutely.
Anyway, so I'm with your husband on that. That's why we'll get married again, I don't think.
Well, and that's funny. It's funny because I have been in another situation. And so I do think that when I see things, he can say those things and it doesn't bother me because it is actually true. And I've been there. I know that on the other side of it, it's like, yeah, that's sad, but you're better off because of it, because you weren't being true to yourself in that marriage. You weren't being your true self. You were either hiding things, or you were tiptoeing around things, or you were not willing to have the fights because you didn't want to hurt someone's feelings. And that in the end is just going to implode.
And I can relate to that. I actually, a lot of the work that I've done after my last marriage, it like had me realizing that, like, oh my gosh, I was so insecure as a person when I met Chris, so insecure. And I always say I got lucky I came across him next, because I probably would have married anybody because I was so insecure. I just was not confident with who I was 14, 15 years ago. And like, just realizing now that I was not authentic to who I was. And it wasn't like I showed up every day trying to like mislead him. I just didn't know who I was, and I was scared of not having the love and affection, and like I was enamored by this guy and like who he was. And I was told by another guy I had dated that no one would ever love me with my 2 kids. Like, I had baggage. And so the fact that Chris would spend time with me was like who do I need to be to get his love? Like, okay, I need to work hard, because he had this big vision and this big mission to like change the world with weight loss. And I'm like, okay, I need to work hard. He needs someone that can. And so I built and built, and I like did it, and I became a better person in the meantime. And I'm so grateful for it, because I grew and all of the things. But like, I realized in hindsight that I became who I was because I was desperate for love. And I was thinking that by getting it through him, I'd be whole and complete, but it didn't work, right? Like, at the end of the day, who I was underneath and what I needed was not a match with him. And it's unfortunate, but also fortunate, because it's part of what life is about. You know, it's learning lessons.
I love that. It's not, even though you have regrets, it's not having regrets, because your regrets are what get you, or your mistakes are what make you grow. Getting out of your comfort zone, everything is what makes you grow and become that better person.
Yeah. I believe, I used to say, like, well, and the thing is, I don't know that I believe in regrets. right? Like, I think it's good to have regret short term and to be like, man, like have clarity of I shouldn't have
Yes.
done that. Even that, like I would not have afforded myself the growth or Chris the growth if, and I don't think he knew wholly who he was, right, at the time too. But if we had not gone into, if I hadn't been so insecure going into a relationship, if I had not worked hard and almost given up who I was to try and make another person happy, so I can't even look at it as regret. I did, like when the marriage was like declared over and he was like, this is done, there was a part of me for a window of time that was like, what the heck did I do? Why did I spend so much time trying to win his love when I'd never win his love? Right? It's kind of how I felt. But then, like, when we sit in that and we feel the emotion and we try and reframe it a little bit and see what we can learn from it, I wouldn't have changed a thing. There's not one single part of my journey that I would have changed, because I would be learning that lesson some other way in the future if I hadn't learned it then.
Well, and absolutely. And look at what you've learned from this experience, from your 2 years of counseling with him, from whatever. You've gone on to build not only the weight loss physical aspect of the journey for people, but the wellness, the mental, the spiritual, the things that people don't understand, that in anything in life. I'm not even just talking about weight loss, but budgets. Like if you need to save money, if you need to, it's a lifestyle change. It is not a quick, we're just going to do this month and then we can go on vacation next month and then it's over. It's no, you have to live the way that you want. You have to live to be able to maintain, to get the results that you want.
Yeah.
That's diet, that's budget, that's, anything like that. And it does take your brain, and it does take checking in with yourself. And
yeah, it does. I when Chris and I, our show Extreme Weight Loss, we were known as transformation specialists or transformation experts. And in like saying what that is, or describing what that is, I would be like, it's hardly a trainer. Like we were seen on TV and the way that they made it look, it was like we had to make them flip heavy tires and run all this and climb up buildings and all this stuff. But the reality is, where the real change is made is not even connected to diet and exercise at all. Like real change is made in your heart and in your mind. And at the time, as Chris and I were building it, because I had been, I had a decade-long eating disorder, very long time. My dad was an addict. I've had so many family members go through addiction recovery and struggle with addiction, myself included. Eating disorders are an addiction, right? And so for me, there was a heart soul component right away. That's like what I love, because I can connect there. I am them. Someone who was 600 pounds, it's like, oh my gosh, you are me. It's just our addictions look very different. I purged my food. You didn't, and Chris was very sciencey, calories in, calories out. But what was interesting is people would think we got them to lose weight with diet and exercise. And yeah, that's weight loss, but how do you get them to actually transform? How do we get them to adhere to a plan for a full year, And it's simply because we taught them about things like integrity. We taught them about failure, right? And how to reframe failure and how to fall without failing. We taught them we had life lessons, which at the time, I don't even think I knew a thing called personal development existed. I had no clue. Like I was just in my world and super oblivious, but that's what it is. Like how we help people lose weight and keep it off for the rest of their lives. We used to say we have foundational secrets of transformation, and these secrets can be applied to budget, can be applied to career, can be applied to relationship. We're simply taking them and we're applying them to weight loss. And in everything that I do now going forward, it is that. Like I always say, I'm going to give you what you think you want to bring you in, and then I'm going to serve you what I know you need. And so people come in, like I have a challenge starting September 12th. People come in believing that they want to lose weight, or they want to get the baby weight off, or they want to be able to, whatever it is. And I love it. Like, believe that. Come in, because I'm going to have you totally shifting the way that you think to where, yeah, you're going to lose the weight, but you're not going to care about that. You're going to care about the way that you love yourself now, and the way that you see yourself, and the way that you appreciate that every single day you wake up and you know how to win, right? That's the stuff that lasts. You're going to appreciate that you're a better mom because you are a part of my community. You're going to appreciate that you have peace, that you are your priority, right? So that's the work I do. I love it.
I think the universe brought you to me right now because I was literally just thinking this. I was getting into the shower yesterday, and because of my special little gap baby, I have a beautiful scar across my abs. And I didn't with my other two. I did not. And so, and I do work out. I am a fitness conscious and have been my whole life. And for me, I even remember I said to the doctor, I was under almost, and just had been in labor for 18 hours and just so out of it. And I'm like, Dr. Lump, please save my abs. I worked so hard on those. Like I actually cared about that. I'm like, please don't. Anyway, so I was I'm out, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But I was getting in the shower, and it is something that is not attractive, but also beautiful, so beautiful, because my body was able to get that baby out safely, and that's what's left from that. And the reason I'm able to look at it that way is because in my brain, I know that that is a beautiful thing. And thank you, body. And I thank you that I can walk every day. And thank you that I can nurse my babies. And thank you that I can carry them. And thank you. You know what I mean? That is such just exactly what you're saying. It has to be mental. You have to appreciate. You have to be in the right headspace. You can't just, and like, I loved how you said the failures, because I can imagine the failures is, you have to set attainable goals, and this is not an attainable goal for some people. And so when you do fall back, that's like, if you take that so hard that you're just like, no, I'm going to eat the whole pie. I'm going to fail anyway. I'm going to McDonald's or whatever your journey is. But you have to be in the right headspace to say, it was a blip. It's fine. I'm human. Start again tomorrow. Or a fight with your husband. You know what? It's fine. I go to bed angry. That's not a don't go to bed angry thing in our family. It's like I go to bed angry, and then I wake up the next day and I'm like, it's a new day, new thoughts, try again.
Yeah. See, and that's such a good thing. There are so many, as you said, I'm like, oh, there's our realistic expectations lesson. Oh, there's where I talk about identity, because they are all connected, and the identity that you believe you are is what you will live into. So if you believe you're a failure, which is part of why we keep people winning each day, if you believe you're a failure, if you label something as bad or a loss, right, you then will make choices of a loser or a failure. You'll make choices that align with that, and you will become that thing. So that's the whole, the long track, but essentially our thoughts become our destiny through words, actions, all of the things, habits created, and ultimately our destiny. But yeah, it is that you touched on something too with your scar. Have you ever heard of the Japanese thought or idea of wabi-sabi?
No, what's that?
I love it. It is, so it's, and I had a whole blog series on this. So I think we both know Janie, right?
Yes.
Janie actually worked with me on the blog a long time ago. I had a whole Perfectly Imperfect blog series, and it was beautiful. And the idea of it was that, like, it's our like they always say there's no such thing as a perfect person. I believe there is. I believe all of us are, and I believe it's our imperfections that make us perfect. And the Japanese theory or philosophy or idea of wabi-sabi is that our imperfections and our in progressness, so like our incompletion, our in progress, our work in progress humanness, is what makes us perfect. So and makes us beautiful. So the model with the gap tooth, you with your C-section line, why? Because there's so much behind that. There's so much you would not have if you didn't have the beauty of that. Like, that is your character. You should never fix it. Never. Even if like some surgery comes out that would have you, like, that is you, right? Like, I always complain that I have a pointy nose, and but like, what if I didn't have, I wouldn't be me, like, these are the things that make us who we are, and they make us perfect and beautiful. And I feel like when we start to try to change them, the light that we have inside of us actually begins to dim, right? Because the insecurity and all of those things that are not good for the soul start to manifest. So anytime you start worrying about it, think about wabi sabi. It is like, you are beautiful. You are more beautiful because of your scar.
You can't even believe it's on my little list right here, my little bullet point, because we basically should be best friends. My other Instagram account is Pure Imperfection, and I actually have a necklace. No! Yes, I have a necklace and a bracelet that I just barely took a picture of in my branding session, and it says Perfectly Imperfect.
I had a whole shirt and bracelet series.
Yes. Yes. I needed you. I'm like, I'm just going to stencil in Heidi Powell on the. No, that's exactly 100%. Yes, that's 100%. That's been my whole philosophy. Yeah. Yes. Twinsies. I had a whole account set up around this before I was presented with Revitalized Womanhood. I started Pure Imperfection 5-6 years ago, and it was for the reason to inspire women. I didn't know how, whether it was like honest reviews in products or whatever, but it was, please embrace those imperfections. That is what creates your perfect life. That's it. That's so cool. Wow. I love that so much.
We're like soul sisters. We're on the same page.
We are. You're my spirit animal.
Yes.
Well, I actually want to talk to my audience for you about, you touched on it a little bit, but you've got that fitness challenge coming up on September 5th, this pre-week, and this is a 60-day challenge. So that is hardcore, because I've been watching your 10-minute ones, and that's what I do. I do your 10-minute ones. And I love that you use water jugs, and I use my baby.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and so this is a awesome. Yeah, well, so this is a 60-day Get Fit challenge. So pre-week starts September 5th, but the actual challenge is September 12th. And guess what I even noticed? It's on sale right now. That wasn't a plug. I just happened to notice that it was on sale because I was like, hey, that's not a bad price.
Oh, you know, it is, for anyone out there, because 60 days does seem intimidating, but the way that I built it, it is for anybody at any ability level. So whether it's somebody who is in the gym and wants a body sculpting type of a routine, all the way down to body weight basics. So those 10-minute workouts that you see, we actually have something called body weight basics, which is simply body weight movements. I have coaching and instructional videos for every single move. So if I'm showing you a squat, right? I'll do an instructional demo to show a basic squat. We'll scale it down to show you the most basic level, like for someone who's brand new, and then we'll show you how to add weight with water jugs. So we make it very, very user-friendly, very easy. The workouts, the women are between probably 25 and 65. So there's such a wide range. I think there's even a couple 70-year-olds in there. Wide range of women. And what's great is when you're in this community, you realize that there's nothing you can't do together. And we find a way around. It's not a hardcore, you get in and I make you do it this way. No, I actually show you your power inside of you. Like something that's intimidating and scary is a thing that we can all overcome. And I show you how in a way that has you winning every day and not setting you up for failure by making you do too much at once. We have nutritional guidance. We have guest speakers and all stars. It's a lot of fun.
I love it. That's amazing. It sounds amazing. It sounds really fun when I heard you talking about it and the different intensity levels, because I do think that scares a lot of people off when they see things like this, like challenges. My girlfriend, she's so sweet. I love her to death. And she does ab challenges, monthly ab challenges. Okay. And I used to do them like, no big deal, like whatever. These are so great and easy, no big deal. But then I had my C-section. Yeah. And I laid down on the floor, and one of the first times that I tried to do this, and it was a simple thing. It wasn't even a hard one, and it was a very simple thing. And I started crying, and I'm like, my brain wants to do this. It knows that it can do this, and my body cannot do this simple thing. And it was that was the first time in my life. It was so frustrating, and it was the first time in my life that I've ever This pregnancy, I tell you, I've had some serious things happen with this one that I can now have empathy for people like postpartum depression and the C-section and body image related to what my not what I physically think of my body, but body image like my brain thinks it should be able to do something, but it can't. So I'm super frustrated with it. It's so much goes back to you have to get right with yourself. You have to give yourself grace. You have to give yourself, it's hard in the moment. I laid there and cried, and Shaylee's the next month, she's like, do you want another ab challenge? And I said, no, I do not. I do not want that. No. I want that away from me. I'm just going to sit here and just be me for a while and just give myself grace more time, you know. But you have to be in the right headspace and give yourself a break.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be ready. And that's a hard thing because we kind of come from this, there's so much comparison happening with what we see online and even comparison with our old selves. Like that's kind of the worst comparison is who we used to be or who we think we used to be, right? And when we're allowing comparison to guide us, we're actually robbing ourselves the ability to become who we're meant to be in that moment. Right? Because like there's so much good in what currently is. And you hear comparison is the thief of joy. It is. It robs you of goodness during the what is and has you thinking about what is not. It takes you from a place of abundance to a mindset of lack. So yeah. One of the biggest things though is because of that, what I guess you had touched on, giving yourself grace and giving yourself time. When we think or when we're in that lack mindset, we're hustling, we're almost doing too much when sometimes all we need is space and all we need is relaxation. All we need is a place to breathe, to kind of let our thoughts settle and grace. We need to offer and give ourselves the same grace that we would give to anybody else.
Yeah, how funny is that we can sit and champion for someone else and be like, you've got this, it's going to be fine, tomorrow's a new day, you know, let yourself have a break. And then for us, ourselves, we're like, no. Isn't that the funniest human nature? That's the worst human nature that we're so hard on ourselves, but we can be so good for other people.
I know. And I think awareness is key there. We can slowly start to change it, but you're right. It is a very hard thing. It's a double standard. That's for sure.
It is. What advice would you give to not even just women, because I hope I will have male listeners as well, but what advice would you give as far as if someone wanted to start a journey on what you're doing other than join this amazing 60-day challenge, because they'll get all of it, but tips for like when you were struggling, when you met Chris and you guys were both, you went to a self-help thing, right? You were both, that's how you met.
Yeah.
What would you say is if you're struggling with something, so we're going to be general, so like if it's your marriage or if it's you're having a hard time being patient with your kids or if it's diet or whatever, did you ever do anything like say, okay, journaling or like, okay, first set your goal of where you want to see yourself or where you want to be and then start journaling or start, you know, how is an easier step that you would give the advice to do to get you to a better place?
Well, I think the first thing, I mean, there's a couple steps, I would say. I think the very first thing is to stop in the moment that you're in, and instead of judging yourself and labeling yourself as, oh my gosh, I'm broken, I think you have to first accept that I am just human. Like, and number one, I'm human. Number two, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Because if you don't believe that you're at where you're supposed to be, you're constantly going to be fighting really the natural process of growth and evolution. And you are meant to learn something from what you're in. So even knowing that and reminding yourself of that regularly can help the process move more smoothly. I love the idea of journaling because it connects to thoughts. I think most of us, so we have between 45 and 60,000 thoughts a day. And 80 to 90% of them are negative thoughts. And we don't like the thoughts that are going through our mind. So we tend to fill our days and our brains and our lives with stimulation all around because that alone time Like, it's scary. There was, when I was going through one of my divorces, I remember a Pink song came on, Pink, you know,
Oh
and
yeah.
the words were, "The quiet scares me because it screams the truth." And people don't like to be alone. And they don't like to be alone because alone means the thoughts, the words that we actually say to ourselves are going to come to the forefront of our brains. We're going to hear them. They're going to be loud at that point in time. But until we have a better relationship with ourselves, we're not going to be able to create the richest relationships with anybody else in our lives. So that broken marriage, you're going to have a really hard time until you work on your relationship with yourself. So really starting by spending time alone and listening to what goes through your mind. And this is where meditation and breath work has been so huge to me, to allow thoughts to move through me and feelings to move through me and not judge what they're saying, is amazing. And then to connect it with breath work, and get the oxytocin release, get all the benefits of oxygenating your body. It has thoughts, feelings, all of the things coming that almost can't stop sometimes, in a great way. And when you give yourself that space, you stop being busy, you be with your thoughts, you give yourself almost space to play and create, right? You can then take that and put pen to paper and just, with no expectation, just let me write what comes out. And you'd be surprised. Like, some of the best healing comes when we're willing to be with our thoughts and get them on paper. So I do love that, but I would have to say that the breath work is huge for me.
We're in such a, and I shouldn't say in our community that we don't have the opportunity to have those kinds of things. They're just not huge here, but they're starting to be, especially Southern Utah. They're starting to be more known and around. So I actually did my very first one a couple months ago, and I'm going into it like, oh my gosh, this is going to be like weird or what, you know. I didn't really know it was a sound bath and everything, and it was so beautiful. It really was. And my sister-in-law, who is from an even more rural area, she just had told me about yesterday that she did it as well. And she said it was so amazing. She's like, I was crying. Like, I was laying there crying, and she says out of nowhere, she said it was really out of nowhere. I wasn't like expecting to cry, and just, it gave me permission to cry, and I just did. And she's like, it was cathartic. It was really good. And I'm like, we need more of that. People don't understand that, like you're saying, you have to be still. You have to just check in with yourself. I think I did an Instagram post that said, before you go to bed, just tick off a few things that you just loved about the day. And then, you know, just thank yourself for letting that happen.
Yeah, I'm with you. My very first experience with any kind of a meditation type thing, breath work, was actually a form of yoga with a girl that does breath work with me now. But it was like, it must have been 3 years ago that I met. No. It was longer. I don't know. It must have been like 10 years ago. I don't remember, but I had met this girl through a very difficult time in my life. And I was doing her yoga or breathwork class, and it was in the dark in her house, and she now does sound baths, all of the things. But I don't even know what magic she was working in that room, but I was a closed up, never cried kind of a person. And I was just in tears, crying, as we were working through this yoga. And luckily I remember being like, okay, the lights are off. No one can see me. I don't want them to see me crying. But yeah, it is. It allows you to tap into emotion that we don't feel we have permission to tap into in everyday life.
And you can't. I mean, you are moms, women. We are constantly, okay, your list on your bio, Janie sent over, I'm like, holy cow, I'm like tired just reading this thing. You are just go. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. But any of us in our lives, we've got our lists, we've got our to-do lists, we've got our schedules, we've got the kids' schedules, we've got this. So there's no time we feel, and then we feel guilty for taking that time. It's like self-care is a shower.
Yeah. And
my husband, sorry.
Go ahead.
My husband doesn't get out of the shower and go, that was quality self-care. Well, maybe he does, but but women, it's like to wash my hair is an actual spa day, and that's sad. No, it's not. It's not, ladies. It's not. That is something that you should be doing anyway. And a spa day is go to the spa, go get your nails done.
Yeah. That's what we talk about in our challenge group too. It's super important. We actually just had a Zoom last night before the challenge started with people who had signed up to that point. And I guess it was what is today? Today's Thursday. So it was 2 nights ago. Oh my gosh. And that's what we talked about. We talked about the idea of being beneficially selfish, and we have to be I have always called it that. I heard a term recently that was self-full. But we have to fill our cup first. And if we don't, and we try and continually fill everybody else from a cup that's half full, eventually ours is empty. And no one will have water then because they're all relying on you to fill the cup. So in order for the water to keep flowing over, you have to continually fill your cup. You just have to. You can't pour from an empty one. And, I don't know that I have as much guilt anymore about taking care of myself as I do such a busy life, right? So it's almost transitioned for me where I tell Dave this, the guy that I'm dating, I think for so many moms, there's like I have to be a stay-at-home mom that's devoted and doesn't leave the home and I can't work, right? Because my worth, like people will question me, where I feel like my worth and my expectation, what people expect me to do is literally everything. From be a mom, work, build an empire. And I know this is stuff that I put on myself, maintain these communities, and so for me, I'm like, there are times where I'm like, I just want to stop all of this and I want to go be a mom. Like I've never been just a mom, never. And I know how much I put into everything. And it's like, what if I could put all that I put into everything else, like that huge list you saw, into me as a mom? Like, how would my kids be full there, right? And a big part of it, though, because I place that expectation on me, there are so many things that I consequently have to pour into. It's like, I just got to do this. I got to do this. And then it'll get to me. It's not even like I'm not allowed. It's like but I want to make sure, and then I'll get to me. And I never, like, my toes right now, if you saw my toenails, they're really bad. Like,
mine are really bad too.
Like, I care about it, and I should care. I'm like, it's getting gross where I should actually care about my toenails. But, it's like, it is hard, whether it's we feel guilty for it or we just feel like we can't, and I'm kind of there. I have days where I'm like, I just can't. I don't have time.
Absolutely. I agree. I totally agree. I think it's the, what's it called? The oxygen mask. There it is. There's the word. The oxygen mask philosophy. You have to put yours on first. Yeah. You can't help anybody else if you're dead.
Exactly. That's what we just talked about on Tuesday. We talked about that same analogy.
Yes. And my toes are horrible too. That's so funny. I love it. One side, one of my feet is like still done and one of my feet is half gone. And so every time I go into bar or yoga, I'm like, yep, that's ugly. But I still don't do anything about it. I don't care.
Yeah, I know.
Can I ask you a completely selfish question? Because when else am I going to get to ask Heidi Palmer this question? So I went on and looked for Transform at my GNC, and I ran as soon as I knew I was going to talk to you. I wanted to get some protein powder because I've actually been wanting to get some. So it was like the perfect time. I need to build my booty. I have a completely flat butt. Like I've been leaning up against the wall for the last 2 years of having this baby, and there's nothing there. And now it's like I have butt envy for girls at the gym. I just walk around and I'm like, oh, you have the most beautiful butt. And they're like, well, guess what? It wasn't beautiful in high school when I had it. Now it is.
Yeah. go ahead. What were you going to ask?
No, so I was going to say, so, okay, lead me to the Transform that I need so that I can go get that.
Yeah, so we actually don't sell Transform in GNC. We sell it online. It's actually in Utah, though, so our headquarters is there. I'll send you some. It's really good. But what it's about, so when you're trying to build anything, you have to eat. You got to eat a lot. Like today, I eat between 2,400 and 2,600 calories a day. I cannot eat less than that or my butt will be gone. And it's a huge misconception. We're trained to be so scared of carbs and fats, and we should be scared of not eating enough is what we should be scared of. And so the protein shakes for me are really, and I actually load mine with a thing called Carbolin. It's carb powder. So every scoop is 200 calories of unflavored nothing. Like I just do it to add calories because I know I don't have enough time to eat 2,600 calories of real whole natural food. But you have to be willing to eat a lot, and you have to lift heavy and skip the cardio. So I don't have people do a ton of cardio because it will pull us away from what we're trying to do. If we're trying to rev up our metabolisms, we got to learn how to eat more and we got to learn how to do less, right? And then as we want to lose weight, it's like we just have to play one small card at a time instead of like crash dieting every time we think it's time to get ready for swimsuit season. So there's a method to the madness, but you got to be patient. It's a long game. It's not a quick fix.
I want to stop right here and let everyone know that Heidi Powell just gave us permission to eat more. Eat more carbs, she said. I heard it. I'm going to write this down on this day. Eat more carbs. No, but I do. I eat, and that's funny that you say that because I eat a lot, and a lot of it's junk and not good, but I do eat a lot of protein because my husband is a hunter, and we have a boat in Alaska, and, so we're constantly eating. So I had lamb sausages for breakfast this morning. We're constantly eating so much protein, but yeah, I think like you're saying, I do need to have a filler because in the middle of the day, when I'm running, I'm not getting enough calories and I'm also still nursing. And so there go those calories. So good luck keeping them. So yes. Okay, good.